made some investments in the cultivated meat and seafood space. I mean, again, what have you seen that gives you the confidence that this technology is scalable, but also that there's a market for it?
Do I believe it's feasible? Yes, I believe it's feasible. The challenge, I think, is it's going to require someone to make the necessary investment in the infrastructure to be able to scale it up.
And how do you see that happening?
It's not going to be VC, and I think it's going to be government backed. So I think it's going to take someone like the Netherlands or the UAE, Abu Dhabi, perhaps maybe Dubai, maybe Saudi Arabia. It could be Tokyo / Japan, but it's going to take one of these governments to say, this is $1 trillion industry. Meat is a $1 trillion industry. It's been dominated by key countries over the last 100 years. And this technology exists, which means it's no longer a factor of how much land mass you have and how many animals you can feed from a grain perspective. It's now more about the efficiency of the technology that's being deployed. I think a lot of these large meat companies see where this is going and have already made the investment because they want to be there at that in those kind of discussions. But yeah, what I think it's going to take is for one of these governments to say, you know, US, China, et cetera, has traditionally been the dominant players in the meat industry. We have the ability to be number one or number two in this new category. And because it's so much more efficient in the long run, I mean, if you just think about it, if it takes you 18 months to grow a cow, and you need to feed that cow lots of grain and lots of food, and you need to grow that grain, you need to transport that grain, and you need to have that cow in a factory farm, and you need to be giving it antibiotics because it's not in a really great condition. So you're feeding it with antibiotics to keep it alive for the 18 months, and at the end of it, you cut it up. If you can grow that amount of meat inside of a month in a clean environment, without grain, without water, without the land mass required for thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of cows, the economics just have to work. I imagine that the way that the cultivated meat will ultimately be introduced to the consumer is probably as an ingredient, probably as a filling that's 20% of the meat that's in. By the way, people have always assumed, and I don't know why, it's kind of blown my mind for years, that people say, oh, we're going to put cultivated meat together with plant-based. Why? For me, what makes sense is cultivated with traditional meat.
Right, okay.
A bit like adding ethanol to gasoline for cars. So what I think is the way this will ultimately be rolled out in the marketplace will be as a 20% of the meat content of a dumpling in China, for example, will end up being a cultivated meat as opposed to a traditional meat.